Hello everyone, my name is Michael Brooks. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Sullivan County Legislature, and on behalf of our Chairman, Robert Doherty, and the rest of the Sullivan County Legislature, welcome to today's Town Hall. With us today are our Public Health Director, Nancy McGraw, our County Manager, Josh Potosik, and our special guest today is George Cooke, longtime Commissioner of Jurors. Welcome, George.
Thank you.
And we are going to start off today with George. He's got some comments and some information he'd like to share with the residents of Sullivan County. George?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. We work in a partnership, meaning we, the state of New York and the courthouse, with the Sullivan County government. We've all faced this virus. I know I speak for myself. I have tremendous fear of this virus. Probably all of us have fear of this virus. But the first thing that we both did is to make sure that we are safe before we reopen our buildings. And with the jury system, we must be fair. We must be fair to the victim, we must be fair to the defendant or a possible defendant. It's all in the Constitution. We are preparing to open the Sullivan County Courthouse that is owned by the County of Sullivan, paid for by the County of Sullivan, operated by the state of New York. This is true in all 62 counties in the state. While we were closed, I want you to know that many people have been working very hard so that we wouldn't get backlogged. We had virtual motions and considerations, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Our family court has been operating. Any immediate concerns have been dealt with. Surrogates courts has been dealt with. Judges working from their home. Security was always there. Court stenographers worked from their home. The clerks in the clerk's office went to the office some days and worked from their home. The governor is considering letting Sullivan County open its courts. Criminal trials and civil trials will be considered down the road. They are not immediately going to be addressed. Sullivan County, like other counties, must be granted permission to proceed with grand jury first. In order to proceed with the grand jury, the governor's office will tell the chief judge, who will tell the chief administrative judge, Judge Breslin, who will appoint an appaneling judge for the grand jury. So as you can see, it's not the decision of anyone locally to open up the grand jury. In Sullivan County, Ms. Megan Galligan has asked permission for 2 different grand juries. This is the first time, if granted, that 2 grand juries will be here in Sullivan County at the same time. But first, we must prepare the courthouse and our residents and visitors who come that they be as safe as possible. I will deal with what we have done in the end of this presentation. Again, grand jury. First, you may not volunteer for the grand jury. You have to be chosen in Albany. We do not choose people locally for any juries. Second, a grand jury does not decide whether somebody is innocent or guilty, but considers whether the case should go forward. A grand jury consists of 23 people who serve continuously on this particular jury. We will call many, many more people than 23 to get 23 jurors. The grand jury will meet on every Tuesday and Thursday if approved by the state of New York. We are going to be much more lenient than we have in the past considering the situations. If you cannot serve, we understand. If you have anxiety or nerves, vacation plans, or if you're sick, where we used to require a doctor's note, we will no longer do that. The age of the juror is definitely something we will consider. Child care we consider, students, or any other concern that you want to address to us. If you do serve on this grand jury, you will not have to serve on federal jury in White Plains, New York. The obligation of the grand juror are twofold. One, local, supreme, and county. 2 federal jury in White Plains. So if you serve on any jury locally, you will be excused from federal jury additionally. Again, if you have a problem, call us locally. I'm going to give you the number soon. We have the numbers. We will talk to everybody that we can, provided we're in the office. You can leave a message. We'll call you back. I personally will speak to any juror that calls this office. Due to the 6-foot distancing, one of the requirements in the courthouse is going to be that no one, whether they're standing or sitting, be 6 feet from anyone else. We just had a group of people from Albany come down. In courtroom 1, where we're going to do the juries, we can hold 155 people. After they did the 6-foot distancing, we can now only hold 28. We will only deal with 20 people at a time. For instance, we'll call 20 people in on a Monday morning. Then we will call 20 people in on a Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, until we can get 23 people. Everyone, I repeat, everyone who comes into the courthouse must wear a mask. Everyone that comes into the courthouse must wear a mask. Remember, no one from Sullivan County can order a grand jury. Again, it goes from the governor, the chief judge, the state of New York, the chief administrative judge, and the impaneling judge. This is somewhat different than under normal circumstances. Most important, and I mean this sincerely, my name is on every summons. My local telephone number in the office is on every summons. If you receive a jury summons from Sullivan County for the next month, please call us. I will talk to anyone who calls us. Leave a number if I'm up in the courtroom. Let's talk. Again, we're going to be more lenient than ever. And if you just simply say to me, I can't serve night now, I'd rather do it in the future, we're not going to ask any questions. We're going to bend over backwards to make it as convenient for the juror to serve. We will not make anyone come in. We will postpone people who can't come in. We either postpone them, excuse them, or delay your service. We need jurors. We need jurors who want to serve. We need jurors who can serve. And we hope this is you. My office number is 845-791-3570. Repeat, my office number is 845-791-3570. This number will be staffed starting next week. The jury summonses haven't even gone out yet, so you won't get a summons now for at least 3 or 4 weeks. If you receive a recording, it means we could be in the courtroom or online with somebody else. Leave a message. I'll call back. Let's talk. In order to serve on the grand jury, you must be a resident of Sullivan County, never been convicted of a felony, at least 18 years of age, and a citizen of the United States. Some people think we pick the jurors in our office, and believe it or not, probably stopped in the 1950s, the Commissioner of Jurors did, which was totally unfair. Now what happens is the state of New York picks jurors in their offices in Troy, New York, and they get them from lists from the Department of Motor Vehicles, Board of Elections, Social Services, Department of Labor, and Taxation and Finance. We have nothing to do with that. In addition to that, you'll be able to volunteer for grand jury. Some of our best, let me take that back, not grand jury, for jury. You cannot volunteer for grand jury. It's in your hands, ladies and gentlemen. We all are nervous about this, and we're trying to be as careful as possible. My own daughter, Lauren, from Long Island, got the virus very bad. She's in tremendous physical shape. She was laid up for close to 6 weeks. She told me she couldn't get into a hospital. She couldn't get into a doctor's office. She quarantined herself on the 3rd floor in her house. She has a 2-year-old child. She does have the antibodies, we found out last Thursday. Her 2-year-old child, who never even had the problem, has the antibodies also, which means he had it. He's 2 years old. In addition to that, my son-in-law doesn't have the antibodies. And we still can't figure this all out. But every time somebody walks into that courthouse, and I'm sure the same thing is true of the supervisors, every time somebody walks into that courthouse or walks into the government center, we're going to look in their eyes and say, we got to make this as safe as my grandson Braden. We got to make it as safe as your children. And I know that the county government is trying to do that. By law, the grand jury is secret. Everyone who enters the courthouse must have a mask. If you are sick, stay home. Don't come in. Just call. We don't want to have anybody come in sick. Everybody's going to be 6 feet apart, sitting or standing. Only one person in the bathroom at a time. Only one person in the bathroom at a time. Only one person in the elevator at a time. When you enter the courthouse, you will go through a magnetometer. What that magnetometer does is try to detect whether someone is bringing in an instrument to harm someone else or harm themselves. As far as safety cautions are concerned, it's probably the safest building in Sullivan County, New York today. But we also have the virus. We have ample parking in the back. The county provides us with a parking lot next to the jail. There'll be plenty of parking. Each jury selection will take about 2 hours. If we can't get 23 people to serve, we'll have to start all over again. Ladies and gentlemen, I love my job. I take my job very seriously. And if you look at my face, you see I'm not the youngest person in the world. I'm 77 years old. And I lie awake nights thinking about how I can do a better job. When my wife died 5 years ago, when I got up in the morning, first thing I thought I was going to do was retire. Thank God I didn't. It gave me a purpose to get up in the morning. It gave me a reason. And the day I don't think I can do a good job, I'll resign. But I love my job. And I love the people that I work with. And I love the people of Sullivan County. They've been very good to me. We have been taking extraordinary precautions to clean the Sullivan County Courthouse. After we do a morning session, a separate crew is going to come in and clean every part where people have been so that the afternoon session won't get anything from the morning session. Each potential juror may speak to the judge personally. All you have to do is when you come into the jury and say, I want to talk to the judge, I can tell you right now the judge will invite you up to the bench and talk to you. When you see the government center, you'll see all kinds of chairs that are roped off with different kinds of ribbons to prevent people from sitting there. You'll see dots, yellow dots on the floor. You'll see red buttons on different chairs. The security will be standing with you at all times. We want to be fair. We have to be fair. We have to be fair to a defendant. We have to be fair to the victim. And most important of all, we have to be fair and we have to be safe. And that's very, very important. I do want to mention one thing at the end. The last time the state came down, I graduated Monticello High School in 1960. And when I graduated high school, I want you to know that we had probably the best basketball team in that area at that time. That was called the Duso League, Dutchess, Ulster, Sullivan, and Orange counties. My friend, who when I was 4 years old, who was my best friend, is still my best friend today. The Monticello school system is a good school system. My grandfather graduated in the first graduating class. My father, Lawrence Cooke, graduated in the 30s from Monticello High School, became Chief Judge of the state of New York. Chief Judge Judith Kay, the first woman Chief Judge of the state of New York, graduated Monticello High School. My 3 daughters, I'm proud to say, graduated Monticello High School. My brother's 3 children, I'm proud to say, graduated Monticello High School, as I did my brother and my sister. And one of the things we do in the courtroom is we bring different schools in. We bring them in for different trials. We show them what it's like to somebody who might be charged with a drug offense or something like that, a scared straight type of thing. And it works. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you it works. And these kids are good kids. I'm telling you right now, they're as good as kids as when I was in school, and they're as good as kids my kids were in school. And we have to support these kids. They're excellent kids. So as I sit here today, I'm appreciative. I'm appreciative to the residents of Sullivan County for sticking with us as far as making these buildings safe. We know it's inconvenient for you not to be able to come into the government center. We know it's inconvenient for you not to be able to come into the courthouse. And if we could have changed that, we would. And to the members of my graduating class in 1960, they sent me a mask. And as you can see, it says 1960, and it's blue and white. And we're the Monties. And we were good then, we're good now. The only way we're going to get through this whole thing is to all stick together. The legislature with its chairman and members of the legislature, the county manager, the judges, the other elected officials in the town, we're all going to work together. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, George. I think it's safe to say that most of the residents, I'm sure, of Sullivan County would say that you're a true asset to the county. You are. And thank you for sharing that information, George. It's good information. Now we're going to continue with our first question, as we always do, with Nancy. And it states, or asks, what are the latest figures, confirmed cases, people currently hospitalized, currently recovered, people who have died, and how many tested? Nancy, welcome.
Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. We continue to have good news. We're seeing, in the single digits every day, new cases, and most of those are in the nursing homes, which we anticipated because people are continuing to get tested as per the governor's executive order. We are at 1,385 confirmed cases, 1,385. That's an increase of 15 since Monday, so over 4 days. So that's about 3 or 4 a day. We have 201 active cases that we're monitoring, 669 in mandatory quarantine, 2,725 people who have been cleared and off of isolation. We've had no additional deaths. We're still at 31, and 8,524 people have been tested to date. That number remains the same as it was on the state's dashboard from a couple of days ago. So that may be updated fairly soon. I would encourage anybody who wants to get updated information and data to visit the statewide COVID dashboard. And you can do that by visiting coronavirus.health.ny.gov/home. And there's a lot of information on there, including guidance for businesses and the community and just about any organization that you would like to get. Lots of questions and answers and frequently asked questions are addressed there as well.
Thank you, Nancy. Next question is for Nancy as well. It's a long question, so please bear with me. I have a concern regarding Governor Cuomo's decision on opening summer day camps. During his press conference on May 21st, he stated, "Until we have this answer on the pediatric syndrome, as a parent, until I know how widespread this is, I would not send my children to day camp." Since then, as a day camp employee, I have been watching daily for any updates on the COVID-related illness that is affecting children, but no mention has been made since then. Suddenly, on Tuesday, June 2nd, he announces camps will open June 29th, and no mention of the illness or which regions. I thought camps were in phase 4 of the reopening plan. Nancy?
The CDC's guidance for opening camps was really actually put out several weeks ago, and it indicated with proper precautions and protections that it would be generally safe for day camps to open as long as they follow this guidance. But the State Health Department has not provided any specific additional guidance as of today, and we have been waiting for them to do so and are anticipating that that will be provided. The cases of COVID-19 obviously are decreasing statewide, and they're at the lowest levels that they've ever been since almost the beginning of this pandemic. Keep in mind that with New York State having been the epicenter in the nation of cases, the extreme caution that has been used. The multi-system inflammatory syndrome, which is being called now in children, or MIS-C, was what we originally were alerted to by the State Health Department in mid-May regarding this pediatric multi-systemic inflammatory syndrome. I understand that that is continuing to be researched and looked at. There were initially 100 or so cases. We've not been provided with any additional information on that at this point in time. So we're assuming that there haven't been any more cases reported. Keep in mind that this, while it is extremely concerning, and definitely we need to be aware of this and watch for symptoms in children, it is still extremely rare. So less than about 2% of the confirmed COVID cases in New York State have been in children under 18. So that's not to say that there's no risk. It is concerning, but given all of the weighing of the risks and benefits to children and families to day camp, obviously the governor and his staff felt that that was an appropriate decision to make. And we're moving forward with day camp openings June 29th. Of course, we, being Sullivan County, we've been in touch with the district office, and they are continuing to work remotely, but they are available by phone. Their number is 794-2045. Should you have any questions, operators have been in touch with the district office, and they can get their questions addressed there. Again, keep in mind that the district office is also waiting for state guidance to be released for additional information. So the last thing I want to say is that the Sullivan County Legislature again renewed the local law that requires children's day camp employees and campers to show proof of MMR or immunity to measles. And that will be required as well for attendance at day camps this summer in Sullivan County. So until we get additional information to share with you, that is where we're at right now.
Thank you, Nancy. The next couple of questions are very similar. I'll answer the first one from a legislative standpoint, and I'll ask Josh when I read the second one to answer from his standpoint. This question reads, why does it appear that all of the June legislature meetings are again canceled? With the reopening process in place, isn't it important to hold many of these meetings from both an economic and health perspective, as well as dealing with the current crisis occurring nationwide? Well, right now the building is closed, and working within the parameters as we continue moving through the opening phases, I'll second to what Mr. Cooke mentioned earlier, that we thank you for your patience. We're living in a different time. We haven't experienced this before, and the legislature is trying their best to conduct business. We talk regularly amongst ourselves. We do have as we did in May, we have an executive and a full board this June 18th. So an executive board will talk about issues. We'll move items forward if need be to the full board to vote on. We take public comments, and we try and address any public concerns or questions as we normally would. It's a little different, but we thank you again for understanding what we're trying to do to keep people safe and maintain our distance. So with that being said, I'll go to the next question, which is very similar in vein, and I'll ask Josh if he could answer this. Does the county have a tentative date to reopen the government center to the public? It appears government offices may fall under Phase 2 reopening, which may happen as early as Tuesday, June 9th. Will the offices have limitations on the number of people allowed inside at one time to conduct business? Josh, welcome.
Thank you, Mike, and good afternoon. Just first like to thank the Honorable George Cooke for that very detailed description of the jury system, how it operated and how it'll operate in the new normal with the pandemic. So yeah, we've actually have a draft reopening plan for county operations in general, but even for each specific department that will become public next week. And generally, the state is treating municipal governments almost like a business, like you'd see in the private sector. So we have to reopen in the specific phases as defined by the state. So in Phase 2, which hopefully will be next Tuesday, June 9th, we're going to start bringing more staff back. We're still bound by the no more than 50% of non-essential staff, and opening up more services for appointments, appointment only. Phase 3 will see more activity and potentially having more walk-in access in certain offices. We've taken a real focus on, obviously, Board of Elections has dates in June 13th through the 21st is when early voting will happen in the government center. So even outside of the phase reopening, we're working with them to how to conduct early voting safely. And then obviously they have an election date on June 23rd that the government center normally is active in the BOE, but not a polling place. This year it's likely the BOE office in the government center will serve as multiple polling places, just due to not having other facilities available and not having enough poll workers in the community to service all of our normal polling stations. After BOE, we're obviously working very closely with Dan Burry, the county clerk on DMV and county clerk, Russell Rees, I apologize, and then obviously the treasurer's office for the collection of taxes. So those real three public interface are our primary focus right now, and then we'll dovetail after those three into all the other offices across the county government.
Thank you, Josh. It does seem like a blur this year between Dan Briggs and Russell. All right, it's been that kind of a year. The next question I'm going to answer, and it reads: I enjoy viewing the town hall meetings and find them very informative. At the end of the meetings, the topic of the census is repeated often. I have yet to receive the form in the mail. Maybe this is one of the reasons the response rate is so low. How does an individual obtain the appropriate form to complete? I know there is an online option, however, some people may not want to use that option. And actually, it's the 2020 census.gov. It is the online, that's where any questions, you should turn to that. The county doesn't run the census. It is a federal government program. But it is important, and hopefully you have a family member, if you are unable to get online, that could get online for you and figure out the best way for you or anyone to participate in the census. It's extremely important to the county, federal dollars, federal representation, and so on. So thank you for that question. And our next question, and by the way, I want to thank you, it's an opportunity to thank everyone again for watching and viewing the town halls and participating by sending in your questions. It's been a well received, and it only works when the folks in Sullivan County tune in and participate, and that's what open government is all about. The next question is going to be for Josh. Will everything be open as usual when we hit phase 4, or will there be some restrictions? Josh?
Once we hit phase 4, things will likely not be as they were in the beginning of March of this year. The state, as the certain regions hit different phases, issues guidance on how businesses can operate within each phase. So a restaurant, for example, can open curbside dining in phase 2, and then may be able to open up in phase 3 for more interior dining. Similarly, we have some big resort attractions here. Casino, water park will probably have capacity restrictions placed upon them by the state, Obviously, there's going to be a lot of requirements for face masks, social distancing. So the state guidance and requirements for the businesses that are able to open in each phase will be dictated by the state on how they're going to have to operate, both from a customer perspective but an employee perspective as well.
Thank you, Josh.
Mike, if I can just add to something that Josh said. What some people don't realize is that our functions here are controlled by the state of New York, and they dictate to us when we can open, when we can't open, i.e. the grand jury and things of that nature. In addition to that, we found in order to open up like a month from now, we have to know definitely, because people have to make their schedules, lawyers, police agencies. And so in other words, if we tell somebody now that we're going to open up a month from now, they may come back to us and say, well, I can't be there that day because I have a previous thing. So a lot of it depends upon, for instance, motor vehicle. I used to be county clerk and was head of motor vehicle, and the state runs the motor vehicle. And so the state is going to tell the county when they can open, when they can do certain transactions, and there's not really too much you can do about it. So we try to work as partners, as you and I do. So, but I just wanted to support Josh on his response.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, George. And George's point is a very important point, that there is a lot of preparation that needs to take place, and thank you for sharing that, George, because that is the government, as you know, doesn't turn on a dime. It takes some time and preparation for a lot of these offices to get up and running and prepare. So with that, we have our last question, which is for Nancy. Do you think there will be a second wave? If so, when? Nancy?
Thank you, Mike. Before I get to that question, I wanted to go back to the earlier question about the day camp and about which phase it was in. Because the question was, I thought camps were in phase 4 of the reopening plan, so I didn't address that, and I'd like to do that now. Many people think of day camps as recreation, which is in phase 4. The governor and the Empire State Development have determined that they believe day camps are as much of a child care activity as they are recreation, and that child care is viewed as essential for those who are going to be permitted to go back to work. And that was the basis of their decision. I left that off of my response, so I just wanted to go back to that. In terms of a second wave, we have been told by the epidemiologists and the researchers and the medical experts that we can likely expect a second wave based on the behavior of this virus, which is a novel virus, if it follows a certain pattern of other novel viruses or previous pandemic flus, which may be similar. But we still don't know. We don't know that for sure. I think that we should just be prepared, and we can do everything between now and the end of the summer to practice personal responsibility, social distancing, wearing masks, and hand washing to limit and prevent additional cases. And should there be an increase in cases towards the fall, we will be in a much better place to deal with any spikes if there is a second wave. So that's as much information as I have right now, and keep in mind that this is an ever-evolving situation, but we're in a good place right now in New York State and in Sullivan County.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. And that is it for the questions today. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. I'd like to thank Josh Patosek, our County Manager, Nancy McGraw, our Director of Public Health, and our guest today, George Cooke. Thank you very much for joining us. And I want to just take this opportunity real quick to talk about broadband for a minute. You've heard that in our last town hall. We've been talking about it a lot. And if it wasn't already apparent, with this pandemic, the shortage thereof of broadband in the county is a very, it's an issue. And we believe we have the technology, thanks to the work that Josh did, as well as our Director of IT, Lauren Green, did, and setting the stage for us to go forward. And like I mentioned in our last town hall, it is our commitment in this legislative term to start turning the tide on the areas that we lack broadband. The technology we have in place is or that we're going to put in place is wireless. That enables us to speed things up. It allows us to avoid the cost associated with running hardwire, fiber optic, pole permits, all that slow things down. And there's been, over the course of the last decade, there have been different broadband initiatives the state has done, the feds have done, with mixed success. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But I think we're at a point now, technologically, we have a solution, and it's our commitment to the residents of Sullivan County, to the best of our ability, to get broadband access to most of the residents using our wireless technology. We're hoping to start a pilot program at the end of the summer, early fall, depending on how things go. And whether it comes to education, whether it comes to health care, work from home, etc., it is an extremely important issue for everyone, even real estate values. So with that being said, that's my little broadband pitch and what we're looking to do in this term. I want to wish everybody a good day, stay safe, and bye for now.